You've discovered a lot about who else had their hand in silencing you, and it's fascinating. Tell us.
So last year in August 2021, Twitter banned me, and that followed. I've been speaking out against the mRNA vaccines. I always distinguish that because I wasn't speaking out against all vaccines or even necessarily all COVID vaccines, but the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines that we used in the U.S. I thought there were issues about whether myocarditis or other stuff. And you may recall that in July of 2021, President Biden said that social media platforms allowed debate about the vaccines. They were quote unquote killing people. Shortly after that, Twitter began to
We have
give
that,
me
Alex. Let me just
strikes,
play
and
that
they
for the
banned me
audience.
in
Let me
late
play that
August.
so that play that so people can hear that themselves. SOT 12 quickly.
What's your message to platforms like Facebook?
They're killing people. I mean, it really, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated. And they're killing people.
Keep going.
So that was a lie. It was a lie then. It's a lie now. Again, the vast majority of people who die of COVID now are vaccinated. Back then, that was not necessarily true, but there was evidence that the vaccines were failing, even as he said that. Okay. So Twitter banned me, and I was in sort of a somewhat unique position because Twitter, I'd been in touch with an executive at Twitter who's now left, who was said to me over email, basically, we like what you're doing. We like the fact that you're a journalist, that you're raising questions about COVID and the countermeasures and the lockdowns and the school closings. And then when the vaccines came out, I said, look, I think I'm going to probably have some questions about this too. I didn't realize how ultimately, concerned I would become. And he said, that's great. We think we're sort of happy to have some debate. And so when they kicked me off, I thought, look, I have a plausible claim here, both that they, suppressed my free speech rights and that they breached their contract with me, which was a claim that other people might have had a harder time making. But I had these specific representations from somebody. So in December of 2021, my lawyer, a guy named James Lawrence, who's in North Carolina, is a really nice guy, and we sued in California, which is where Twitter is based, the Northern District of California, San Francisco, in federal court. And we did that because that's where your agreement with Twitter says you have to sue. And we thought we had a real case, and we didn't want to get bogged down in fighting over where it was going to be heard. We just figured, let's go forward there. And we got a judge named a Clinton judge, not a Trump or a Bush appointee, named William Alsop, who heard our arguments and who heard Twitter's arguments. And basically, Twitter's arguments are these social media companies believe they have basically complete protection to do whatever they like. Doesn't matter what they say publicly. Doesn't matter what the terms of their contract are. There's something called Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which was passed in 1996 and has basically been, to my mind, misinterpreted by many judges to give these companies complete protection. If they want to ban users, they can do whatever they like, is how this law has been interpreted. And so they, to my mind, Twitter's lawyers were overconfident. Twitter was overconfident. In April of 2022, Judge Alsop ruled that I did have a viable claim on breach of contract, that he was going to allow this lawsuit to move forward. Well, as you surely know, big companies don't like discovery. They don't like being sued. And so we engaged in some settlement discussions. And it was very, very important to me that I get the discovery, and discovery is a legal term, meaning basically that in a civil lawsuit, the person you're suing has to provide you with relevant documentation. So if I'm suing Twitter and I'm saying, I believe that that you were acting on behalf of the Biden White House, or this is why you breached your contract with me, they've got to provide those documents to me, showing the pressure they might have felt from the Biden administration, or from the World Health Organization, or from Pfizer, or from whoever. And I was not going to settle this lawsuit without getting that discovery and without the ability to publish that discovery. So in July of 2021, I did settle with Twitter. By the way, this is sort of the background, this is as Elon Musk
22.
is saying he's going to buy Twitter and he's going to try to restore free speech to Twitter. That was all off to the side on some level. The lawsuit was its own thing. And so in July, they put me back on the platform. We settled. And then since then, I have published some of the discovery I got. And the two most important bits of that are in late July, I think it was late July, I published something showing that the Biden White House, in the person of a guy named Andy Slavitt and other people too, but Slavitt was essentially, he was a senior advisor to the Biden administration's COVID response team. He's sort of a Democratic healthcare bureaucrat who ran Medicare actually for a little while under Obama, and who's best known, I would say, by Democrats for helping fix the Obamacare.gov platform, the platform where you signed up for Obamacare. There was a problem with it in 2014. It didn't work that well. Slavitt got famous among healthcare people for fixing that. And so Slavitt did not like me. He wanted me gone from Twitter. I had made fun of him in 2020 because I thought he was sort of over the top. And he'd said things like, we need to shut down 90% of the country. We need to stop food production. He actually said that. And, I thought this stuff was insanely over the top. So he didn't like me. And when he was at the White House, which he was from January to June of 2021, I should say, he pressured the Twitter to kick me off.
And let me just jump in here. Let me just jump in because you've posted these to your Twitter account, and here's an example of an exchange with the White House internally. How was White House is the question, and the answer is overall pretty good. They had one. This is the White House. They had, speaking about them, the White House, had one really tough question about why Alex Berenson hasn't been kicked off from the platform. Otherwise, their questions were pointed but fair. These are Twitter employees. And mercifully, we had answers. So you absolutely have the White House, a government agency, interfering with the private speech or the speech of a private citizen on Twitter. This is what the First Amendment is all about. This is when we always say, it's got to be government silencing. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to silence you by going to Twitter to tell them to shut you up. Then there's another question. Any high-level takeaways from the meeting? Anything we should keep an eye out for? Response. Thanks. And yes, they really wanted to know about Alex Berenson. Andy Slavitt, the guy you mentioned, suggested they had seen data that that he had showed he was the epicenter of disinfo that radiated outward to the persuadable public. And right after this, what happened to you?
Well, it's interesting. Right after this, nothing happened to me because Twitter didn't think that they could take any action against me.
That's when Scott Gottlieb came in.
See that? So this is all. That's right. So that's April, and this is all on the unreported truths on my Substack. You can see the documents for yourself. No one's questioned their authenticity, which they can't because they are totally authentic. And you can see the Slavitt story, and then you can see the other story. And I'm really glad you highlighted that because it's very clear that Twitter felt that I was being targeted, right? They say,
yes,
and they distinguish between the other questions that they were asked, and they say mercifully. So when people say, oh, well, the White House didn't demand that Alex be banned, they just asked, I say to you, when the cop says, sir, can you please get out of your car? Is that a request or is that a demand? How much leeway do you feel you have? Okay. Right. But here's the thing. Twitter still didn't want to take action against me. And then, so that was a private conversation in April of 2021. And then in July of 2021, the White House takes it to another level. They go public. Biden says what he says. The Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, says what he says. They're putting a lot of pressure on Twitter to publicize, and Facebook against people who are questioning the vaccines. And Twitter starts taking steps against me. They start giving me these strikes. And the way the Twitter policy works is if you get 5 strikes, they can ban you. Okay. I got to 4 strikes. And then that was in late July. And then in August, they let me back on the platform. And I knew, and they knew, that one more strike would be the end. Okay. And so I was pretty careful about what I said. I tried to be, and I tried to sort of still talk about the vaccines, but do it in a way that I wasn't going to give them any chance to ban me. Even though I believed everything I'd said was correct before, I wanted to just really make sure they couldn't ban me. Well, most of August went by, and then a guy named Scott Gottlieb. Now, Scott Gottlieb is he's a very important person in sort of drug industry politics. He was the head of the Food and Drug Administration. He was a prominent Republican. He was actually a friend of Andy Slavitt's too. He was advising some governors about COVID response. He was advising both the Trump and the Biden White House about COVID response. And most importantly, Scott Gottlieb is a board member for Pfizer, which is
former
the number
FDA chairman,
one profit maker from the COVID vaccines in the world. They've sold $70 billion with a B dollars of COVID vaccines in the last 2 years. And so Scott Gottlieb goes to Twitter and says, hey, this guy is dangerous. When he writes stuff, Tony, meaning Tony Fauci, is at risk. And lo and behold, less than 24 hours after Scott Gottlieb, the Pfizer board member, has a conversation where he's accusing me of all kinds of stuff, or of being a security risk, which was absurd, Twitter banned me. And that is going to be the subject of the new lawsuit, which will be against the Biden administration and Andy Slavitt, but also against Scott Gottlieb and Pfizer. This was a sort of broad conspiracy by both government actors and a private company to destroy my First Amendment rights and to interfere with my contract with Twitter. And it succeeded temporarily.
Carmen in Cedar Rapids, Iowa says, I have struggled to find a product that did not irritate my skin. This is the only one I've been able to use without problems. Not only do I love it, but my skin feels like velvet. Love, love, love it, she writes. From now through Thanksgiving, treat yourself to Genucel's most popular package. That's all their best stuff for 70% off at Genucel.com right now. It is the only skincare products you will ever need. Right now, every one of their most popular packages will include Genucel's hyaluronic acid correcting serum for free. Genucel products delight men and women with inspiring results by correcting your daily skin problems, whether it's wrinkles, dark spots, dry skin, sagging jawlines, facial redness, even those annoying bags and puffiness you sometimes get. And with its immediate effects product, Genucel guarantees results in as little as 12 hours or your money back. Order now at Genucel.com/MK60. Your most popular package also includes a holiday gift set plus free express shipping. That's GENUCEL.com/MK60. Genucel.com/MK60. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.